Welcome to And That's the Game podcast. Presented by Pro Batter Sports. And That's the Game is hosted by Wayne Mazzoni. Today's special guest is Brendan Coffey.
Hello and welcome to this episode of And That's the Game podcast presented by Pro Batter Sports. I'm your host, Wayne Mazzoni. My background is 30 years as a college baseball coach and current college baseball recruiting advisor. For more information on that, please visit collegebaseballadvisor.com. Today's very special guest is Brendan Coffey. Brendan was a player for me at Sacred Heart University with really an incredible journey to his story. Came in as a catcher, spent about a year and a half trying to catch, good defender, really wasn't a great hitter, transitioned to pitching, had a moderate success as he started to have more, then had to get Tommy John. After Tommy John, he's coming back. He's pitching great. COVID comes. And then what was his senior year at Sacred Heart, he turns into being one of the best all-time closers in school history, and then parlayed that to his last year of pitching at Boston College. So we covered kind of that journey, his upbringing, playing golf and hockey and baseball, his time at Sacred Heart, his time at Boston College, and then kind of life after college and what he's doing. I think you'll really find this just like the journey of a regular, cool, intelligent kid that had a, really successful baseball college career, but that had its bumps, and bruises along the way. I'd like to remind you that this podcast is made possible through the great support of Pro Batter Sports, maker of the most advanced pitching machines for baseball, softball, and cricket. Like a pilot training in a flight simulator, hitters can practice like they play, getting the equivalent of live at-bats against a batting practice pitcher who never gets tired and can throw any pitch with pinpoint accuracy. Check out their line of amazingly affordable systems at probatter.com, along with their all-new softball videos, and take your swing to the next level. While you're on their website, please sign up for a free copy of the book, Practice Like You Play, authored by Adam Battersby, the president of Pro Batter Sports, with a chapter written by yours truly. All right, Brendan. So what's cool about this podcast is it's an opportunity for you and I to catch up, and then hopefully other people listen and enjoy it and learn something from it. And, honestly, in this world of how we're all scattered and busy, and it's like you and I will text here occasionally, but we literally haven't caught up in a while. So I'm psyched, to catch up and get.
I think it's like our monthly check-in. Hey, how's it going? Everything's good. How's the family? Good.
Exactly.
Another month. Yeah.
Exactly right. Right. So what I want to do, and it's interesting, most of the guests on here have been either college coaches, pro coaches, or pro players, et cetera. Yesterday, which I filmed, but it hasn't aired yet, we had a junior college coach on, which was cool because it gave us a perspective. So you get the prize of like the first kind of college player, post player. And I think just your journey, which might seem regular to you, even though we kind of know it's not, the different curves that it took. Mm-hmm. I think there'll be a lot for people to learn in there, but I always like to start at the beginning. So kind of cover just two things, if you could, a little bit about where you grew up, your area. Okay. And then your sports background, which I know is hockey and baseball. So and I'm not talking about like at 6 years old, you got dropped off at 9 a.m. fit to practice, but more of like junior high school. So talk about the area and then the sports upbringing.
Yeah. So from Saratoga Springs, New York, it's a decent sized town. They'll call it a city, but it's really not a city that you and I would know. Primarily known for horse racing. So big gambling town, doubles in size during the summer. It's pretty much a big tourist resort town. Solid high school size, mostly public high schools. So none of like the prep school, anything like that. But pretty competitive league in terms of baseball, hockey. I played a little bit of golf. So was never really hurting to find good competition to play against. And with an older brother, really wasn't hurting to find older guys to really mature against, I think. So like you alluded to a little bit, primary sport growing up was really hockey. Like that was my first love. I'll still say I was probably better at hockey than baseball, but It's a little bit harder to play, just supply and demand. There's really not that many hockey schools, and there's a lot of really good hockey players. So I think the theme of my journey to college baseball and through college baseball was like transition. So around my junior year, was excelling in hockey and also doing pretty well in baseball. Realized, oh shit, if I want to go play hockey, I'm probably gonna have to go take 2 years off of school. All my friends are committed to play hockey, or not hockey, baseball, lacrosse, football in college. They're all getting ready to graduate. I'm like, sweet, I'll see you guys in 2 years. I'll be the 20-year-old freshman. Like, started to think about life a little more than sports, and that wasn't really the most attractive thing to me. So I kind of went all out one summer, just like, let's hit every showcase. Let's play any tournament we can. Got in front of Restaino at, I don't even know what school I was at, but went like 2 for 4 in the game, threw out a couple of guys because I was a catcher at the time. 2 phone calls later, a call with G, went to the Sacred Heart showcase, and I think I was committed a week later. So it all happened really fast.
We're going to unpack a lot there because a couple of things. So first of all, about Saratoga Springs, which if people don't know is really a really, really cool area. Maybe I don't think you take it for granted, but sometimes when you're from a place, it's not as exciting. But you failed to mention that there's SPAC, the concert venue, the greatest artist of all time, Dave Matthews, plays. In terms of hockey, what was your position?
I was a defenseman. So I was a two-way defenseman. So like wasn't scared to join the rush, wasn't scared to hit anyone, which like not the biggest dude, but I could skate pretty well. So I was going to say that. I mean, contact
right now, what are you, 6'3"?
Like 6'3", 6'4".
Okay. So what were you as a junior in high school? Were you?
I was probably 6'3", 185. So like I was a bigger dude in high school.
That's what I'm getting at, hockey guys. And, and on that note, you brought up something that's really interesting. So, as you know now, my job is to help people with recruiting, right? So I give lectures, I get hired by people to help them with baseball. When it comes to hockey, I cannot wrap my head around the hockey recruiting process because it's truly different than every other sport, right?
Well, especially now with the NIL and everything, you're getting a whole crop of these Canadian junior guys that you never had because now they're eligible to play because they've been making basically NIL money. So it's just getting even harder. It's super foreign to basically any other sport.
And it's something else you brought up too is our last podcast we just released was Peter Fatsi. Pete Fatsi is now the hitting coach for the Boston Red Sox. Mm-hmm. And I just listened to it again, the interview, and he's like, man, when I was in high school, I thought I was going to play hockey. I didn't realize that baseball would be, the route. And here he is, the Red Sox hitting coach. You mentioned golf too. Was golf something you formally did, or was golf more like, this is what I'll play on my hobbies?
So my dad got me into golf when I was probably 3 years old, and I couldn't stand it because I sucked at it. It's a lot easier for a kid to hit a baseball off a tee than it is to hit a fairway. So I hated it until I was probably 10 or 11. Started to get better, played JV golf in 7th or 8th grade, then made the varsity team, played a couple of years. Once I started to kind of specialize just hockey baseball, I joined this like AAA 18U, whatever hockey team. And it was just too much travel because golf's a fall sport in New York.
That's what I was going to ask. So
so hockey was starting.
Yeah, you went golf, hockey, baseball, and then it was just
too much. Yeah.
Okay. And before we hit the record button, we were talking a little golf. I mean, is golf still a major passion of yours?
I would say the number one hobby now. And it's nice. I moved down to Austin, Texas, which I'm sure we'll get into a little bit later.
Yeah.
But like I'll play whenever I can just to get kind of competitive juices flowing, find a game anywhere you can, put a couple bucks on it and just get it eat.
I got it. Totally cool. So then in terms of that recruiting, see, I just learned a couple of things right there that I didn't know. I thought it was G that discovered you. So I didn't know was Restaino that discovered you. And honestly, I don't even remember that you came to one of our camps. Did we interact at our camp?
I don't think we did, other than me warming up a couple pitchers. Because I know during those, you just stand kind of in the pen, watch guys warm up, and then you watch the routing.
Right.
So Like I was down there warming some guys up, but there weren't a lot of catchers. And Bobby Garbuio was actually there, who ended up being my roommate and still one of my best friends.
Unbelievable.
So we were platooning as catcher that whole day.
So, by the way, and this is one thing I'm always bad at. I remember all the players, all the details. I just don't remember years and who was with who and et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
So you came to that camp when? What year was it?
It would have been summer of 2015 because I graduated high school 2016.
Okay.
And so you're still at Harbor Yard. It was.
Got it. Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
It kind of went to shit.
Exactly right. So here's this second thing. Was there any other schools in play? Were you considering other places, or was it like, hey, Sacred Heart's interested, I visited, I like it, boom, I'm done?
There was a lot of Division III interest just because like there's so many Division III schools in the Northeast. They're bound to come see you play high school. So like I would always say I was a pretty good defensive catcher and like an okay hitter. So if I had a good hitting day, they're like, all right, he's a big frame. We can probably make something out of him. The year going into my senior year, I started to hit a little bit better and kind of caught fire. So that was really, you guys were the first offer and I took it. Like there was some casual interest from other schools, but yeah, it wasn't crazy.
All right.
So I know you're deep into the recruiting game.
Yeah, no.
It only takes one.
Right. It only takes one. And listen, people, find their connection in a number of ways. The problem is most kids aren't good enough so that when they go to these camps, they get overlooked or their skills don't show. You would show well because you're a big frame and you had a heck of an arm, which we'll get to. So then let's talk about this. What do you remember from freshman year in terms of, being on a baseball team, a Division I program for the first time? And you look back and go like, man, I fit in, I'm in over my head. Like, how did you feel as a freshman?
I think freshman fall, myself and everyone in my class, like even the guys who ended up playing a lot in the spring, we were all so intimidated, like crazy imposter syndrome. Like, am I actually good enough? Because you go from being like, you're the man amongst boys to then going and playing with actual men. Like,
right.
Mike Lembo was 23 years old, like crushing Red Bull cans on his head before he went into the game, and like $180 soaking wet. So it was hard, but it was easy to get into the routine that kind of like sets you up for success. So it teaches you, like, you grow up fast. It's easy to grow up fast.
And so obviously, yes. I mean, when people would ask me to describe you as a catcher, of course, exactly. You were a good receiver, hell of an arm. Your bat just never, at least as long as we gave you time as a catcher, which we'll talk about in a minute. I mean, your bat was behind. I think you knew that too, right? We always knew you had basically built like a pitcher with an arm like a pitcher. I mean, we would have meetings and talk about that. Like, should we talk to Maz? You got to talk to Coffey about pitching, blah, blah, blah. So correct me if I'm wrong. And this is why I love catching up. And I think I know most of this. I might be wrong a little. You basically spent 2 full years, freshman and sophomore year, where you didn't do anything else but catch.
Freshman year into sophomore fall, I think I officially made the transition right after LSU. And the only reason I say LSU is because that was my last BP and I parked 2 balls into the stands and left. So like, regardless of any stats or anything, that's still like highlight of my college career.
There you go. It's hysterical. Very, very funny. See, I don't remember that.
So it was sophomore year. I was like officially PO once we got back north from spring break.
Okay. See, that's funny to me. I could have sworn it was longer as a catcher, but okay. So, yeah. And I know the journey. I, again, don't remember the time. This is why. So what happened that sophomore year? Did you pitch at all / when did you get hurt? So tell me about your sophomore spring pitching wise. I don't remember.
I threw, well, the reason I finally like gave into you guys on pitching is like, I was always, it's going to sound cocky to say, but like any sport I had played, I was like one of the best, if not the best player on the team. So I always had an impact. Like I felt like warming up pitchers, like it wasn't really making an impact. So do I do that and grind it out? Because we had Dogger in front of me and like wasn't going to take his spot.
Right.
And once he graduated, it was Bob and Trevor. Like that's a legit fight. Probably wasn't going to take those spots. So I was like, what's my path to having the most impact on the team? And like, I hadn't pitched since Little League, but I'm like, yeah, might as well. It can't be worse than what I'm doing now. I either sit in the bullpen throwing or I sit in the bullpen warming the guys up.
Right. So yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So like once we finally made the transition, like we toyed around with it a little bit in the winter, early spring. First outing, I think it was Kennesaw. It was either Kennesaw or Nichols, whichever one came first. And it was Nichols because it was the brutal like 24-2 loss, whatever we had.
Right.
Which was, you're in the middle of nowhere, like Thibodaux, Louisiana, getting absolutely pumped, but I'm like jacked up. I'm like, let's fucking go. This is my first outing. Ended up throwing like 14 or 15 innings, like the most pedestrian innings of all time. Probably had a 6 ERA, like nothing to really write home about, but it just kind of proved I could do it.
Okay. And then that summer, did you go pitch that summer?
Yeah, I got kind of lucky because the Perfect Game League had a bunch of teams around me. So I played for the Amsterdam Mohawks, which like tons of Power 5 freshmen and sophomores. So it was a lot of really raw talent. So like they're still young, but like guys have juice, they can hit. So that was a really good proving ground for me. Like throwing 15 more innings in the summer, like really like low pressure, yes, but against some pretty legit talent.
Right. So you come back then junior year, you're all in on pitching.
Mm-hmm.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. That's the year come spring. I remember you had an outing against St. Louis. That might have been at Stetson.
Yes.
Basically, that's when you got hurt.
Yeah, which it might have been the week before against William and Mary. It was like a cold, rainy day. It was kind of one of those rush to get ready situations. Came up sore, but like nothing crazy abnormal. Then St. Louis came around. First inning, I was like 87, 88, like good movement, whatever. Normal stuff. The next inning I came out. I think I threw 8 straight balls and velo was like 80. I'm like, something's probably wrong.
Right.
But I didn't have like a pop or anything. It was just kind of progressive. It was weird.
So obviously that leads to Tommy John.
Mm-hmm.
What was your Tommy John date? Do you recall?
April. Honestly, it might have been April 4th. So from when we're recording tomorrow.
Okay. And that was then 2018?
It would have been
or 19?
19. Yeah.
Okay. So here we go. So I'm just going to quickly recap. 2-sport guy in college, gets recruited really by Sacred Heart, comes in a year and a half as a catcher, switch to pitcher, start to have, get some outings, but not really ultra successful. Go pitch in the summer, start to build up, have a solid fall, come back, pitching well, boom, hurt, April surgery. Okay. So that takes us then to spring of 20, when now, correct me if I'm wrong, you're back from Tommy John, pitching well, and then this little thing known as COVID comes along.
3 innings later.
3 innings later, right? So
0 ERA though, so.
That's what I'm saying. Right now we're like, Coffey's the man. He's going to play a significant role. Like, this is legit. Boom. COVID happens. All right. So which we could get back to if we want to talk more about COVID and how that whole thing. But so now the following fall, so it's fall of 20, you are now you're a junior, a senior. You're a senior, correct?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
A senior with 2 years of eligibility because you missed one through Tommy John and you missed one through COVID. Okay.
Well,
so yeah,
it's 2 or 3. Well, because it was the red shirt. So I was a red shirt junior because of injury.
Right.
And then like a red shirt sophomore because of COVID. So I had 2. Yeah.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
So then that spring, which is now the spring of 21, you just become flat out the man. Everything gets put together. You go from a relief guy to very quickly you're the closer. You're now 89, 91 with a ridiculous slider and split. So just talk about, like, I know, and I could probably make you cry on this podcast if I wanted to, which I'm not going to, but I remember how badly you said it earlier. You just wanted to contribute in some way, shape, or form. I remember one day we had a pitchers talk and that you got emotional. You're like, I don't care what it is. I just want to contribute some way to this team. So now, after all this journey from catcher to pitcher to Tommy John to COVID, you're the man, and you're one of the best relief pitchers that the school has ever had. What do you take away from that year and just actually transitioning pitch and being dominant? What do you remember years later now?
I really, like, I didn't have a chance to like dive into pitching until COVID. That's why I said, like, getting hurt and COVID were two of the shittiest times, but also like the biggest contributors to me being successful in baseball. Cause I always just kind of faked it with pitching. I didn't really know how to throw any pitches. I just kind of threw as hard as I could and let's see what happens.
Yeah.
But like, that was the first time I could like work on Rapsodo, work on pitch design, actually dive into mechanics, like understand the biomechanics of how to move and how to make it repeatable. And I also, like, one of the benefits that I had and one of the realizations I made during that is like, dude, you were a hitter and it was really hard.
Yes.
So like, just own your stuff and realize that hitting's hard. And like, that switch flipped of you're in the position of control, like, it made it so much easier.
You know, that is a massively huge thing you said. You're right. We all know the hardest thing to do in all of sports is hit a baseball. So pitchers, you're on the other side of making someone do the hardest thing they can do in sports. So we might as well go after the guy and not throw a bunch of balls and walk the guy and put him on. Here's the funny thing I think about too is, in my whole coaching career, I really never invented anything really. That's what coaching is. You steal things, you tweak it, etc. But I came up with that pitch calling system, which now is passé because even my son's Division III team, they all wear watches and the signals get called. But we came up with this system where we signaled it from the dugout, and you and the catcher and other pitchers on the team would use it. That was a pretty cool kind of concept that you bought. Like, I think that really helped you too.
There was, because what's the pitch clock now? Is it 20 seconds between pitches?
Right.
I would have been at like 12 seconds remaining. Like, I would just roll. Because I think by the end of the year, I was throwing twice a weekend. So like, we kind of knew what we want. Like, we were on the same page with either Trevor or Bob, whoever was catching. So there was no shakes. There was nothing real. Like, I trusted you, and if I shook, you were like, all right, you take the wheel, and probably going to be a good call.
Right. Yeah. So that was really, really cool. And that, well, we don't want to get into that too much, but it was actually fun to create that and have guys that wanted to use it.
And no one ever picked up on it for as painfully simple as it was.
It's right. Was kind of the genius of it.
Yeah.
So then, of course, now let me ask you this, what I don't remember, because we'll get into the next thing is, what did you do that summer after your senior year of, academically, after that great, did you go play somewhere?
I played, well, because it was still weird with COVID because it was 21. So it was, it was 20.
No, it was 20. Because you pitched the spring of 21. So it was the summer of 21. You're right. But not everyone was exactly.
Perfect game. Like I said, I was lucky just because I lived in the area.
Right.
They still had like Amsterdam, Glens Falls, Albany, and then I think one other team within like an hour radius. So I just went and played for Glens Falls, which is like the halfway point between my house and my grandmother's house on Lake George. So it was a decent summer of living up by the lake and pitching in 20 games.
Right.
It was a lot of local guys, but there's still enough collegiate guys in that area between like Siena, Albany. So it was decent competition, just get some innings.
Right. So then I remember after that good season, you could have basically, you graduated, you could, and you always had your stuff together. As anyone watching now will be like, yeah, this guy doesn't seem like he's, 25 years old. He like, are you 25? Oh, you're 27. There you go. Yeah, you're 27. It's unbelievable. But so you came to us and you're like, listen, if I'm going to continue to play, you guys have like no hard feelings. Love you guys. I love this program, the friends. You You just said, listen, if I'm going to stay in it and I'm going to keep in school and not go to work, I want to go to something bigger and better and see what I can do with this. So we, you know, and if, like, it's funny, we could talk forever, and we have on this podcast with other people about the transfer portal, but with you, it was more like, let's help this kid in whatever way possible. So all of a sudden now we had everyone out of the woodwork. We had the Virginia Techs, et cetera. And then obviously you got yourself to Boston College. What do you remember? And I was happy to be a part of helping you get there. What do you remember about that almost re-recruiting process? Was it pretty easy? Were you a little overwhelmed?
It was so cool from a kid who like didn't have a ton of interest out of high school to then it was like free agency. Like I remember I was on the driving range when we had that like official let's make it happen talk. I think it was you, me, and Staines on a 3-way call, and it was like, all right, we're submitting it, you're good to go. 2 minutes later, I get a call from Gambino at BC because you had texted him like, this is gonna happen, you should know about it. He was the first person to call me, and I ended up going there. But after that, it was like 3 days of nonstop texts, calls from pretty much you name it. So it was pretty cool.
And then, so let's talk about, you know, your time at BC. So obviously when you were there, we even at Sacred Heart came up to play, which was really like the first time I felt the free agency, like, hold on, that's our guy over there.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong. You absolutely loved everything about the upgrade, the competition, the field, the facilities. I mean, Vance, who was the pitching coach at the time, was off the charts good. Now he's at Arizona. So what do you remember about like the beginning of getting there going, holy cow, like this is legit level baseball?
It was really cool because yes, it was legit level baseball. I wouldn't even say it's for the top end talent. Like any team in the NEC, Sacred Heart was in the NEC at the time.
Right.
Any team's top guy could play at any Power 5 school. So like that wasn't the difference. It was the no breaks in the lineup. Like even in our fall, there's kids who are redshirting that just mash. Right. So like the new level of competition, like it makes you focus more. And it was cool going into that, like already being like aware of what college baseball is. So going back to like first year at Sacred Heart, like, holy shit, am I good enough to do this? Right. I don't know my routine. I don't know how to do any of this. Like going in and knowing the process. Yes, it's a new scenery, but it was so much like less overwhelming going in, meeting the group of guys, seeing the trainers, seeing the coaches. So it was really cool.
And, you know, obviously I would always track the first thing I would do after our games is over is go to BC Coffee, get in. How do you do? I mean, you really went from one of the bullpen guys and really became, I don't know if you were quote unquote the only closer, but certainly one of the guys that was closing games. What do you remember about that year in terms of your role, your performance, the whole bit?
Well, there was definitely, that was probably the biggest reason I chose BC over some, like there was other Power 5 interest. And like people are probably saying, oh, why did you choose BC? Like they're historically one of the weaker teams. They're a Northeast school. Like Gambino made it clear, like you're going to get the ball. It's your job to keep it. So our first game, we were down at Austin P. I was first out of the pen. Like, all right, here you go. Here's the ball. Your job to keep it. So like I wasn't really going to give it up after that.
Right.
Like if I was kind of playing with house money at that point. Like it was my 6th year of school playing against Power 5 guys coming from not even really wanting to play baseball in college. So I'm like, we got nothing to lose. Might as well let it all hang out.
And, you know, I remember actually there's a text you probably won't remember. And I was like, because, you know, everyone at the level of a Sacred Heart and et cetera, especially with no field, you know, on campus, which hopefully they build them one soon. It was kind of a struggle. And I would say like, you know, on a 1 to 100 scale, what is BC? Like if LSU has 100 of everything they need to win a national championship, what does BC have? And I think you were like 90. And I go, what did Sacred Heart have? And you were like 30. And I'm like, yeah, that's, you know, and I remember actually when we came up to visit, we got to look through that building next to the field, which is just ridiculous.
It's insane. Like
yeah.
it's legit.
Can you explain that building? Can you explain it?
Yeah, so it's the Pete Frates Center. So ALS Ice Bucket Challenge. Everyone, I assume, knows it by now. Pete Frates was a Boston College baseball player. So Pete Frates Foundation. I don't know if they donated all of it or if they just got the naming rights of the building, but it's like as brand new as you could get. I think it was a year old when I got there. Houses baseball and softball. But you walk in and the first thing you see is like 8 tunnels, like 70-foot tunnels up to the ceiling. You can raise them all up. It's a full infield. Like all hit tracks, TrackMan, Rapsodo, like anything you need. And we could use it whenever. So
Right.
I was taking a lot of night class because I was a grad student. I could go in at 8 a.m. or 6 p.m. and throw a flat ground on Rapsodo if I wanted.
Right.
Then down on the I guess it's the basement, is just like legit pro locker room, player lounge, weight room that it had a couple racks. So it was mostly like pitchers day after you threw, you'd get your lift in. Like you didn't need to interact with anyone else, which
Right.
was like amazing. You just go in, you get your work in, you hop out, you're on your field.
Was the training room down there as well?
Yeah.
Okay. And are the coaches' offices in that building too?
They all, well, yes and no. Like Bino had one on main campus in the football stadium. That's where all the
Right.
coaches were.
Yeah.
Like they spent most of their time around our field.
Got it. Right. And I remember there was some sort of lounge or something where people could watch the game from.
Yeah, it's like the alumni, like the Diamond Club Lounge, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Here's one takeaway that I have from your time there too, and I really love this and this is something that comes up all the time. It's probably going to be until the end of time with baseball. But I remember being like all the resources that BC has, the way you were coached by Vance, who was like basically a pro pitching coach, all these different things you had. And I'm like, oh my God, they're running an unbelievable team up there. And then I'd look and go, the team ERA is like 7.9. Like, obviously the competition's ridiculous, as good as you can find anywhere in the country. But it made me realize that someone's mentality on the mound really supersede, while everything matters. And I think that's, as you said, one of the reasons you did so well is you had your routine. You weren't awestruck. You were in the right frame of mind, whereas a lot of guys are overthinking it or too mechanical. Or do you recall that, like, holy cow, we're still getting hit around, this group of guys that probably all were 90 plus or close to it, right?
Yeah, I was one of the softer throwers, I could think, of guys who were getting innings, which was wild. But there was a time, I think we were at Notre Dame. We had like just blown a lead. I got the same save in game 1. We had the chance to clinch the series on Saturday, like against, I think there were 18 in the country at the time. And we just bullpen just shit the bed. And the next day, Vance, like, it was some real tough love of like, looking at your eyes on the mound, you don't have it. Looking at your eyes on the mound, you don't have it. And there was maybe 3 guys that he pointed out of like, you're a dog, you're not going to give up runs. Like, no one's hitting you. So if you look at the following year of BC, the staff didn't change that much, the pitching staff. And the team ERA was like 4. They won 30-something games. So it's so much of riding momentum and confidence.
Yeah, and I believe, and Bino and Vance were still there at that point, right?
Yeah, that was their last year.
That was their last year, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, let's do this. Let's take a break with Brendan Coffey. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about, the tail end of BC and then life after college.
Introducing ProBatter, the future of baseball training. With the PX3, you can practice like you play. There is a better way to train your athletes. With an easy-to-use touchscreen controller, you can program any pitch, any speed, at any location. The ProBatter simulator is designed to replicate real game, real-world pitching. Better practice, better play. Hit any spot inside or outside the strike zone. The PX3 features reliable mechanics and an optional automatic ball feeder system. Get the most from practice. In addition to baseball, the PX3 is perfect for softball. With the PX3, no more relying on practice pitchers or basic pitching machines. Better practice, better play. ProBatter, Train like it's game day. Step up to the plate with confidence.
Hello, this is Wayne Mazzoni, host of And That's the Game podcast. I hope you're enjoying listening and watching the podcast as much as I am making it. It's really been enjoyable to connect with all these great people, great baseball people. The purpose of this message is to let you know about College Baseball Advisors, a company that I founded a couple years back after 30 years as a college baseball coach. I basically guide players and families through the recruiting process. If you're interested in learning more, please go to collegebaseballadvisor.com and learn more, or book a call where we basically will meet and talk about your recruiting process. I'll lay out a 3-step plan for you to move forward. If after that call you think I'm someone that could help you in this process, we can discuss that. If not, you just want to take that information and use it to go forward, that's great as well. So hope to see you down the road. Thank you. All right, we're back with my boy, Brendan Coffey. Very happy to be connecting with him. And we covered a lot of stuff so far, which is great. I think there's a lot of good takeaways for young kids that, again, look at you now as this confident 27-year-old and all the experiences, and yet think back to the day you walked in as a freshman going like, oh my God, are we ever going to play? It is really one of the joys of having gray hair. The gray hair joy is like, I can look at another kid and go, yeah, he's on the Brendan Coffey path, or he's on this path, or he's on, yet at the moment, they don't really see it. Because I think we all get short-sighted. And it's like, oh, I'm never going to play. I'm never going to do this. And yet things change all the time, right? I, again, because of like my love for you, I thought, man, he's got to have a chance to play after college, man. Scout's got to be up there with his numbers and his body type and all that. I don't think, weren't obsessed on it, because I think you're as excited to be a business guy. Did you get any sniffs? Was there anything that happened that you could have played indie ball or anything in that regard?
A couple like pre-draft surveys and stuff, but I was 24 at the time. Like I wasn't going to get drafted. Right. I would have signed for like a bag of Doritos and a plane ticket. I would have just joked. Right. But it was also like post-COVID pro ball, or at least affiliate ball. There's just not that many spots. The draft got short my draft year. I wasn't going to get drafted my junior year anyway, but draft got short. Minor league baseball got tight. So like, I kind of knew I like probably wasn't going to get paid to throw a baseball. Right. But it doesn't mean like I shut it out completely. Like after my season at BC, I was still hanging around Boston, like getting workouts in and everything until that free agency period passed. Then I mean, like I had a little bit of interest from indie ball, but I was like, feels like it's just delaying the inevitable of starting next phase in life.
Which it probably is, unless you get to indie ball as a former first or second rounder or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, along those lines. One more baseball thing before we kind of get to the next phase. At Sacred Heart and BC, which guys specifically did you play with that either have been in the big leagues or are in the minors, possibly going to make it to the bigs?
Directly on my roster, not as many as you would think. The guys who kind of were around, way more. Just on direct roster, Sam Mangeli from Sacred Heart. I was there, I think, his freshman year, then he was hurt his sophomore year. So like I didn't really get to see him at his peak, but he was.
So you never played with Shorter Foley?
Nope. They were the year before me, but they were always around. So
okay.
Same thing with BC. Like
how about Frelick? Yeah.
Didn't play with him, but was always around. Emmett Sheehan, always around. Cody Morissette.
And you played with Mancini though, right?
Played with Joey, Joe Vitrano, Cam Leary, Mason Pelio, Max Geeg, John West.
All those guys are minor leaguers now?
Yeah.
Who out of that group is the closest to being the next big leaguer?
I think Joey now, honestly.
Right.
Like he was always a little loose in college. Like he was so talented and like he would put in the work during the hours, but like he was a college kid and he was 20.
Right.
Like I'm not going to say he was partying all the time, but like.
Yeah, you got to have some fun. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, I don't think he like he didn't eat, sleep, breathe baseball at the time. He was just really, really good and he still worked really hard.
Yeah.
Like got drafted by the Astros and like he's all in. And don't know if he got invited to big league camp this year, but he's probably going to start the year in AAA. I wouldn't be shocked if he was on a roster this year.
You know, that's interesting because Zach Short's on AAA with the Astros. I'm going to have to look it up after we get off if they're happen to be on the same team together. Potentially Joey's in AA for all I know. We could look back because maybe they, you know.
He was in Corpus last year, which I think is AA, but he had a great year. So,
all right. So talk about, you know, kind of, and this, I don't know all the details. I know you probably told me, and when it comes to like business jobs, my eyes glaze over. No offense to anyone, but what was the first job that you're not still in the first job, are you?
No.
Yeah. So what did you do first?
Worked at Saratoga National Golf Club for this summer following that last year. Just kind of, it was still the weird transition period of like, do I want to go play indie ball? Do I want to work? And also just like following COVID, weren't a lot of jobs.
Right.
It's a lot like my recruiting journey out of high school.
Right.
Got my first job. It was actually in Saratoga, so I was still living at home, which I didn't mind.
Right.
It was at a wealth management firm called Shade Tree Advisors, so like small wealth management, working with really high net worth people. I was there for like a year and got a really, really cool call from a guy that my brother actually used to work for, who basically runs the life of this private equity billionaire. And he goes, hey, do you want to move to Hawaii for 3-4 months and do some way more fun shit? I'm like, sounds pretty good. 2 weeks later, I'm in Hawaii. Was there for like 4 or 5 months, and I get a call from my new boss, and he's like, hey, how do you feel about working in sports? And I always thought, like, because I grew up around sports and I was around it all the time, I'm like, I want to get as far away from possible and just not really think about it. I was like, you know what? Yeah, might as well. So that's what brought me to Austin, is the same guy who's actually the owner of a bull riding team.
Wow.
So now I'm in with the bull riding team. I do all their finance and some general business strategy with them. But the CEO and GM of the bull riding team, he's actually a baseball guy. So it's like the best connection, great mentor, and like it all comes back to baseball.
So here's just a question, which is so great to hear. Are you at the phase of your work life where like you know exactly what you're doing, or is it kind of thing like, because you're always bright, high IQ, common sense, etc. But like, are you still learning?
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of learning, yeah.
My high school hockey coach had a great quote. It was like, confidence comes from competence, and with more competence, you gain confidence. So it's like, it's this never-ending cycle. Like the more you do, the more confident you get, the more confident you are, the more that you learn, and it just keeps going. So I'm at probably 15 months here at the team, and it's cool because it's really a startup. It's only like 3.5 years old. So I got every part of the business.
Very cool.
Selling sponsorships, writing guys contracts, making trades. So it's pretty sweet.
Okay. I mean, it seems like you're happy with it, which is awesome. Yeah. Tell me about living in Austin.
I love it, especially coming from the Northeast. Like our winters are like the Northeast fall, which is the absolute best. So summers get tough when you get 60 days in a row over 100. Like the city itself, live music everywhere, great food, great people. It's pretty sweet.
Awesome. I mean, I was there once a long time ago, and it seems like, you know, there's like 5 or 6 places in the country that seem like an awesome, in my mind, I know it's not, but I feel like it's like a mini New Orleans. Like there's always live music. There's always good food, kind of, you know.
Like New Orleans, Nashville, a little bit of Tampa, because it's a lot of transplants. Like I would say out of my friends here, 90% of them are from California, Chicago, New York, Cleveland.
Got it.
It's cool. Everyone who lives here kind of moved here for a reason.
Totally. What's the relationship status?
Still in the relationship. Same girl.
Oh my God, dude. I mean, that, you know, I'm not going to ask you publicly here what's happening with that, but same girlfriend, which is a good one. You got a good girl there. That's awesome. Tell me 2 more things I want to cover. One is, you know, we kind of started off where you did maybe before we hit record, you just recently ran the Austin Marathon. Talk about that experience of training for that and running that.
I joked before we got on, it was like a mid-20s crisis of myself and Austin Markman, who, if you don't have Austin on, you should.
Yeah.
If you haven't heard about his current life, it's pretty hilarious. But we just shot it out in our group chat, which is still like every day, it's just blowing up.
Yeah.
Anyone want to run a marathon? We're like, yeah, whatever. So we just kind of like, we signed up just so that we couldn't back out.
Right.
And then it gets to the point where like, holy shit, we actually need to train. This is real. But it was good. Like, training for something has always been like way easier for me to do. So whether it's like team lifts or like off-season lifts, at least you know you're doing it to like be a better athlete or perform better on the field. After graduation, it's just kind of like, all right, I'm working out just to be healthy and look good, I guess.
Right. Yeah.
But like training towards the marathon was pretty cool. And it was just like, it was physically the hardest like 4 hours of my life.
Yeah. And did you enjoy the training part of it, or did that wear on you, like the long runs and stuff, or was it good to kind of clear your head? And
it was cool. I mean, it's a lot and it's time consuming. Like, you wake up Saturday morning, you're like, all right, I got to carve out 3 hours to go do an 18-mile run.
Right.
That got pretty old.
Right.
Just like disconnecting. You just throw like an audiobook or a podcast or something. I enjoyed it.
Do you have anything on do you have a next thing that you're going to do? Like, no. And I'm saying, because you may not like the marathon. Like, is there anything else that you'd want to do? Because I've done a bunch of things that, right. I mean, I go to this gym F45 where it's this hard class, but it's kind of social and cool people. And then there's this event, High Rocks, that I'm doing in June, which is like a worldwide kind of event. Same as you. It's nice to have something on the slate. What do you think you might want to get into as your next?
I want to do some more competitive golf stuff, whether it be like Texas Mid-Am or
interesting.
Yeah, just so it's like not physically as bad on your body. Like, I felt like shit a lot of the marathon training, just like joints always hurting, but you can still train for golf, and it's like some pretty good stuff. It's pretty similar to baseball, right? But also being on like a practice schedule. So I need to just sign up for tournaments so that I have to do it. Right. Because if I don't, I'm just going to.
I mean, what do you have a PGA handicap?
Yeah, I think I'm like at 2 right now.
Oh, you're that good.
Wow. Which I would like to get back down lower, but.
I mean, with your physique, do you just crush drives?
Yeah, pretty good.
Yeah.
That's the other thing. I'm like, my brother and I always joke, we're like, just join some like local long drive stuff just to see.
Yeah, you know what? You possibly should. But all right, the last thing I just wanted to ask you, it could be one question, it could lead a little somewhere, but this many years removed now, at 27, like you said, when you look back on your college experience in general, in the classroom, socially, baseball, what's your takeaway from that whole time?
It's really cool because you enter campus with 40 friends and they're going to be your best friends forever. Like, even if I don't, like, I'm going to Shock's wedding in May. We don't talk like that often, but we're still in a group chat that is just like, hey, checking in, whatever. It's like, if you're around people every day for hours on end, you're going to like them pretty quick and you build a pretty special bond. So you go through the shit together, but you also, you have each other's back through all of that. And you go through some pretty fun times together too, which you hear the senior stories. So,
right. So really though, the takeaway is the relationships that you built and that you still carry on.
100%. Yeah. Cause no one really gives a shit about your ERA or your batting average when you're 30 years old, right?
Right.
Everyone's like, close the yearbook, man. But you still have like some pretty special bonds. Like, we still do a golf trip every year where we get together, and it's really the only time that we see everyone at the same time. We get back together, you click, everyone's talking shit again. So it's like no time has passed.
now that the Mazman is off the Sacred Heart staff, he might need an invite to one of these places.
Oh, gee.
As long as there's some alcohol, some adult beverages and some cigars, I could be there.
We're in the process of planning.
All right.
So-
I mean, I got a lot of stuff, but seriously, if it works, I would love to do it.
Yeah, 100%.
Last final thing then is, if you had, let's say, a younger brother in high school, or the younger version of yourself, or some kid who's at 16, he's a sophomore, junior in high school, and he's like trying to figure out the path to have a good college, even high school career and college career. Any advice from your experience that you might give a young kid like that?
I would say buy in, and like, you're not right about everything. Like, I would rather be wrong about something and end up being good than right. So, like, if you think, so this is a good example going back to Boston College. I went in and I thought I could like blow guys up with a four seam at the top of the zone like I did at Sacred Heart. I learned really quick that I couldn't do it. I was kind of hard-headed for the first couple weeks. Started throwing a sinker. Had a lot of success, and it became my primary pitch. So, like, even though you might think you're right, it doesn't hurt to keep an open mind and just try other things.
No, that's a great point. I always tell anyone that, like, hey, you got to be coachable, and you got to also become your own best coach. You got to buy into like finding the best ways from whatever way that is, talking to other players, various coaches, feedback from hitters or pitchers, like, and then at some point you don't want to be too coachable where you always don't want to be changing everything because you're always in flux. So it's like finding that right balance,
It's like the happy medium of being a tinkerer, but also like being consistent. Like, you can mess around with different pitch grips and stuff, but like in a game, you have what you have. So it might as well be something that is going to work.
Yeah, agreed. All right, Coff, that was awesome. Thank you so much for joining me. Yeah, I hope you're not the stress type, but I hope you're like, why, what's he want to talk about? But this was perfect because, again, you have a recent journey, and it's just, I think there's a lot to unpack there. And especially think about it, the transition to pitcher, Tommy John, COVID, major success, move on to a bigger and better place. There's not a lot of people that have that kind of journey in that path. So I appreciate you sharing that with everyone, and let me know about the golf thing and see if it could work. I'll come in and we'll have some fun.
Yeah, and if you ever want to come see some bull riding, you know where to.
All right, that's fine too. That's fine. Do you ever? I know we're probably ready to end, but up here they do run some bull riding stuff. And like the arena, whatever you call it. Is there a million bull riding things, or is it like?
So that is PBR.
Yeah. Okay.
It's separate than us just because we're a team. So that's like the other half of the year.
I see.
But still affiliated. So it's a good time.
Okay.
It's a little bit different than anything I've ever done or anything I thought I would do, but.
Yeah. I mean, those people getting on those bulls are just absolutely insane, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, it's good ride is like 6 seconds, right?
Yeah, it's 8 seconds qualified ride.
8 seconds qualified ride. I mean,
it's like a car accident every time.
Yeah. What a crazy world we live in. That people doing that. But all right, BC, thanks for joining me. And it was awesome. We'll talk soon, buddy.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks for having me.
You got it. Thank you very much for listening to this episode of And That's the Game podcast presented by Pro Batter Sports. Hope you enjoyed my conversation today with Brendan Coffey, really successful pitcher at Sacred Heart University and Boston College. Again, this is your host, Wayne Mazzoni, and I'd like to remind you that this podcast is made possible through the great support of Pro Batter Sports, maker of the most advanced pitching machines for baseball, softball, and cricket. Like a pilot training in a flight simulator, hitters can practice like they actually play in the game, getting the equivalent of live at-bats against the batting practice pitcher who never gets tired and can throw any pitch with pinpoint accuracy. Check out their line of amazingly affordable systems at probatter.com, along with their all-new softball videos, and take your swing to the next level. While you're on the website, please sign up for their free copy of the book, Practice Like You Play, authored by Adam Battersby, the president of Pro Batter Sports. I've written a chapter in there on the recruiting process. Again, hope you enjoyed today's episode, and we look forward to seeing you on our next episode of the podcast. Thank you.
For more information about Pro Batter Sports, visit them on the web at probatter.com.